And I'm Jansen, and that's Sky. I know that you guys have kind of conversed,
Yeah.
obviously. And no, seriously, thank you so much for coming on and taking the time to do this. We really, really appreciate it.
Yeah, you guys have the most American names ever. Jansen. You don't get any British Jansens. I've never
Yeah,
even heard of that name. It sounds like I don't know, like a trademark for like a I don't know for something cool. And Sky is obviously like the most like very American as well.
there are
Yeah.
very, if it makes you feel better, there are also very few Jansons like that I know either. Like
Uh,
ironically, one of the few that I knew actually went to my high school as well. But I bet if you
wow.
ask Sky, he's probably met one, and it's me. It's just a
Yeah.
guess.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that's funny though. I
Actually,
appreciate it.
Jed's a very American name, surprisingly. Like there's not really many Jeds in the UK. They're all the Jeds that I've heard of from America.
We're learning so much already.
That's
Yeah,
right.
you are doing like a name. This podcast is about names, right? And
Yeah,
that's
it's
It
about
is
okay.
now.
nomenclature, how names,
Yeah.
etymology, things like that. That's what we're talking about.
Hey guys, it's Sean. Couldn't make it to the actual recording, so I just have some thoughts on the film. I'm going to share them, and I'll have some questions for our special guests as well. I just got done watching Host, and it is safe to say that I am shooketh. I think part of that had to do with just its reputation, but also just the fact that it was only 57 minutes. And usually with a horror movie, you know you have a good 30 minutes or so of build up before you get to the scares. And in this one, I didn't know whether or not I'd have that luxury. I was full of dread the entire time. And something about just, it's like when you're watching a movie and all of a sudden you see a bunch of tight shots in a car and you just know that a car accident is coming. It was kind of the same, like all these little tight shots from laptops. You just knew something was not gonna go well for these group of friends. If I had to rank the deaths, Teddy gets the worst of it because he wasn't really he just kind of gets thrown in the middle. He didn't get any of the build up, and he gets burned alive. That's gotta suck. I don't know if we can count the Gemma and Haley at the end, but I think that's the second worst. Definitely getting your head smashed in is third. Caroline. I don't really understand what happened to Radina, but I think she's fifth, and I think fourth is um, Emma. I think her name is the blonde. Gets thrown off her back deck into a backyard table. Rough. Overall, just really slick, really, good storytelling. Really liked the movie. Um, and it was everything I wanted in horror. It just filled me with dread from the get go. So it was a great job. But that's sort of my review.
Sky, if you just want to get right into it, we can do, like I said, an intro after. But
Yeah.
I know that this is, I've got to tell you, Jed, that Sky is super hype because this is his deal. He
Yeah.
loves any horror. It's his thing. So I'm gonna let him kind of lead the way here,
Oh.
Was it my
because
background that gave it away, Jansen?
it's the background. That's what it is. Yeah. And
Nice.
see, and I'm on the, just so you're aware, I'm the opposite of the spectrum. I am not a horror guy. Not because I don't think that it's a good genre. I think it's too effective for myself. I get very scared very easily. So I just want you to know that.
Yeah,
Okay.
And
I had actually had him watch, Hosts,
Yeah.
and he kind of like live texted me his reactions the entire time, and it was great. So
I,
I mean,
I find that Host almost like a gateway film for horror. A lot of people who don't usually watch horror have said that this is their first horror for a long time, or sometimes their first horror because they don't watch horror.
mhm.
So it is kind of a gateway horror to the rest of stuff on Shudder and just horror in general, I think.
I'll
so
just tell you, it was very effective, sir. It was very
yeah.
effective.
Oh, cool. Thanks.
Well, kind of speaking of gateway horror, I definitely agree with you. I've seen the tweets, I've seen the reviews. I agree. People are being exposed to horror for the first time through your film.
Mhm.
What was the gateway horror film for you? Is there one that really stands out in your mind?
Um, well, the one that kind of made me feel like horror could be something more than just like dead bodies and gore is probably Evil Dead 2. Like
Yeah.
when I first saw that, like it was, I think I was still in school, and a friend's older brother like had it on VHS, and like I snuck it in my. I had to have it the entire day in school, like in my school bag. This VHS of Evil Dead 2, and I thought it was like if I get found out, I'd get arrested. It was like that vibe. And when I got home, like I didn't tell anyone. I just kind of like snuck it in and watched it, and I was like, oh my god, this is the best,
Yeah.
because it's a good balance between comedy and horror, and it just felt fun. And I didn't know up until that point that horror could be like fun, and like you're meant to have a good time and be entertained. So that was probably the one for me to make me think, oh, okay, like this exists, this type of film exists.
And
Yeah.
I mean, personally, I kind of saw that in your film as well. I mean, the whole first kind of bit during the actual seance is almost a joke. It's at least a joke
Yeah.
to them.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
so,
yeah.
I mean, there is some levity in there, even though it's a short runtime and it's jam packed with the horror. There is some levity that I appreciated in there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, it definitely we put a lot of the stuff that we like about horror films into it, and levity is definitely something that sometimes horror films forget to do. In order to make people like these characters, you kind of have to make them warm, and just so when they die, like you actually care about it instead of just like them being a number. And also during the time we were making Host, like me and Rob were having meetings for our Sam Raimi projects, and we were like speaking to Sam like all the time. And I think a lot of that rubbed off in this film as well, in terms of like, the balance between kind of comedy and horror.
So that's interesting because I want to talk, about the development idea of
Mhm.
Host. Like how did that even come about? I know that this was made during COVID, and I guess how did it start, this idea? And, just kind of walk me through this whole process.
Yeah.
And just to clarify for folks that might not have seen it or want to watch it, the whole film seemingly, and maybe it was, and I think we're going to get into that, takes place on a Zoom meeting, a Zoom seance. So that's why it's just relevant, just for, again, people that might not have seen it or are interested in seeing it. The whole thing takes place on Zoom during COVID. I mean, people have masks on and everything, so it's very relevant for this time. But I just wanted to explain that first.
That's good. Yeah, put into context. So at the start of lockdown, the UK lockdown in sometime in mid March this year, 2020, and the first day of lockdown, I started a WhatsApp group called the Quarantine Movie Club, and I invited a bunch of my friends into it, almost at random. I didn't do all my friends, just a select group of friends who I knew will be up for watching movies every day. Um, and we started watching movies. Like we watched it for every single day for weeks, and I'd make a poster every day for these movies that we'd watch as well. And then they're getting more and more elaborate. And then we ran out of movies to watch. So Rob, who directed Host, he called me up and said, "I want to prank our friends," and he showed me what he wanted to do. And that prank was, he would get us all into a Zoom call. He would say he's hearing something from his attic, and he'd been seeding this for ages. Like honestly, it's like the Prestige. He'd been seeding it for weeks, and then so he said, right, I'm gonna like make them think that I'm hearing something in my attic. I'm gonna go up the ladder to my attic. Something's gonna jump out at me, and then I'm gonna fall down and die. And what he'd done, he'd rigged up this thing where
What a prank.
yeah, well, he basically rigged up. He would be on his mobile phone, and then he would like put his hand in front of the camera, and then he would quickly place his phone on this ready-made kind of stand in front of his laptop, which would be showing a scene from Rec, which was a scene from the attic. So he would go up to his real attic, quickly put up his phone against his laptop to show someone jumping out, and then he would be back to live footage of him falling down and killing and dying basically. And I was like, they would never fall for that, and they all fell for it. And we filmed their reactions, and we put it online, and it was only like a 2-minute video. We put it online, and it was seen by like 7 million people in like 2 or 3 days.
Wow.
And we were like, what? Because me and Rob like had made a bunch of short films that had done relatively well in the past, but we'd never had those numbers.
Yeah.
So we're like, oh, so this is all it takes. Like, we make a stupid video for free, and the whole world pays attention. So we're like, okay, so what can we do next? And like, me and him were ready to set ourselves on fire because we've always wanted to like do stuff with fire. So we were speaking to our friend Nathaniel, who runs this stunt company. We were like, okay, we're going to set ourselves on fire. We're going to film it and then put that online, and then we'll be viral heroes again. But luckily, we were stopped doing that because we got offers to make the prank short into a longer thing. And it wasn't a short, it's not even a short film, it's a stupid prank. But
Yeah.
from that, we got loads and loads and loads of offers from like the biggest companies. And we're like, what is going on?
Wow.
So the only kind of company that got it, and because we wanted to make it in lockdown, no one kind of like trusted us to make or thought it was possible to do it in lockdown, but Shudder did. And so Rob calls me up and asks, do you have any ideas? And this is kind of usually how our films work. Like, he calls me up saying, do you have any ideas? And I usually have a pot of ideas, but for this particular thing, I didn't know how to make the prank video longer. So I said, like, leave it with me and I'll come back to you. And I was just up all night, just racking my brains, like, Jesus, like, we need to think of something like fast. And then it just came to me, and then I text Rob 2 words, which was Zoom seance. And then I instantly fell asleep. And then I woke up and it was like 9:30, and Rob was like, okay, I'm pitching this to Shudder now. And he pitched it to Shudder. Just literally, he told them, we've got 2 words, Zoom seance. We're going to use our friends from our WhatsApp group, Quarantine Movie Club. And we don't want any interference. And then we're like, cool, yeah, here's the money, make it. And we told them we wanted that out in July as well. And this was May at this point.
Wow.
Actually, no, this was April 24th or April 29th or something. So then we got the girls who were all from the original prank back onto Zoom, and we were like, we're going to make this into a longer film for Shudder. And then we're like, what? This is crazy. And we filmed all this as well. We filmed every step of the way. We filmed the conversations we had with the girls, with our stunt teams, with the VFX guy, and we just said to everyone, and all of these people are from the WhatsApp group, the Quarantine Movie Club, everybody, all of the girls, and it literally everyone I picked that first day when I started that group is either in the film or part of the crew. We just use everyone. So we obviously didn't. We had to make a film in 12 weeks because we gave ourselves that date, and that's the day we announced we were going to drop it on Shudder. But we didn't know what we were doing. Because no one had done a film in lockdown before, so we had to essentially build the tracks in front of us and just invent an infrastructure to make a movie this way, with the director not being there, with the stunt teams being having to social distance, the actors not being in the same room. We just had to invent everything as we went along, because no one had done it before, because no one had been in this situation before. But we used a lot of these things to our advantage as well. The fact that everyone was available, and there's never been a time in history when everyone you want is available. Like, all of these actors who usually like quite busy, all of them are available. All of the crew are available. So in some kind of ways, this was a benefit. Like, the lockdown was a benefit to us. And then also the thing about in horror movies, you always say, why don't they just run outside? You can't really run outside like in the UK during lockdown, because, and especially now, there's going to be it's a curfew that they're imposing in the UK. So it just, everything kind of like worked out really well. And in terms of the writing process development, it took us about 2 weeks, and myself and Rob and the other writer, Gemma Hurley, who we brought on because mostly me and Rob were too close to the girls. Like, they've been our friends for years, and in order to get the best out of it, we needed someone to be to come at it as an outsider, and it really, really helps. Otherwise, like,
Their personalities might come through too much. And,
yeah, and also, like, we've got our own kind of like relationships with the cast. Like we're better friends with some than the others, I think. So we didn't want to be biased
Right.
pick our favorites for certain bits. So it was great to have her there to kind of say, well, this would probably work better with this person. And yeah, and like Gemma's awesome anyway, and she fit in like really well. And yeah, so it took us about 2 weeks. We ended up with a 17-page beat sheet,
Wow.
which had some. So it wasn't like a full like screenplay. It had some lines in it, but a lot of the good stuff that you see in Host, a lot of the good lines is either improv
Wow,
or they were better than at the time.
Yeah.
that's great.
And yeah, and that's it. Like that's basically how we started making it. Under those
Sky,
conditions.
Sky, why I have a question for you, Sky. Why have you not made a movie What's Up group and invited me to it and made me a star in a hit movie? Because I feel like that'd be pretty cool, Sky, of you to do.
Sky,
Yeah.
why haven't you done that?
I know. I should have just skipped grad school.
Did you make
and
a group
just,
and I wasn't invited? Is that what happened?
Yep. Yep. That's
Well,
exactly
the
what
bad
happened.
thing is, I was in that original prank video as well, but I'm not in Host.
What's up with that?
Though,
Did
like,
Gemma
I
cut
thought you might
or
be like
I'm just
just hiding in the attic in the dark, just like.
well, I can't give away too much, but in the cinematic release, you might see a familiar face. That's all I'm saying. Because
Nice.
there's like 5. It's a slightly longer than cinematic release.
Very cool.
So you might see someone pop up. But yeah, that's kind of the start of it anyway.
That is so awesome. I mean,
That's very awesome, actually.
so not to talk about me too much, but it's like I'm in screenwriting. I'm in an MFA program in screenwriting.
Oh,
So
cool.
just to hear that this entire film was created from a beat sheet, 17-page beat sheet.
Yeah.
That's just that's amazing. I think you guys did a really great job with what you had too. So
That's the future. Like that is 100. But honestly, that's the future of films.
yeah.
It's,
I think so. Especially right now, people want short, or shorter rather.
Mhm.
Do we want Sean to ask his questions? Do we want to do that now? Do we want to do that later?
I don't think we actually disclosed to Jed. Well, we do have a third person. He's just not able to make it.
Oh,
It's
behind me. Is this the guy behind me? Is that Sean?
Yeah, that's him.
Yes,
That's Sean.
yes, it's Sean. That's Sean. He's right back there.
But yeah, so it's like 5 o'clock here, so he's working. But
Diligently.
he does have a couple of questions. Maybe diligently, maybe not.
It depends on the day. But yes, he has a couple questions. I have never shared my screen before, but we're going to try it. I think it should be pretty straightforward. I think it's about 2 minutes. If you only catch 1 or 2, that's fine. We're just going to play them all at once just because it seems easier that way. Is it working, Sky?
I love this.
Oh, great. Perfect. All right, Sean, it's your turn. 1:14.
Okay.
Oh,
you didn't select.
You didn't enable audio.
Ooh,
Wait, Jed, you tell him. You walk him through it.
Yeah, so come off screen share, then come back on it again. In the bottom left-hand corner, there'll be a box to tick to say share sound.
Oh man.
How often did you run into this problem while filming this? Because I know
I am genuinely the number one expert in Zoom in the world. I swear I am. But between us, like all of us are.
Do I go to audio settings? Is that where I'm going to go? Share screen?
If you click on share screen,
oh.
and then the bottom left-hand corner of that pop-up window, you'll see a button to tick for sound.
Oh man, I don't know.
Can you not?
Oh, share screen. Oh, I see it. Okay.
Yeah.
He is the pro, guys. Look at that.
Yeah.
All right, now share.
Yeah.
Use your audio. Put in my password, see if that works. Sean, here we go.
Hey, Jed, thank you for coming on the podcast. Again, I'm sorry I couldn't be there on the actual Zoom call, but I don't know if I would have wanted to be on a Zoom call with you considering what you have put together with this movie. Just really good storytelling, really good, really sleek. I really like that. The first question I had was about the mechanics of the filmmaking, because it did look like it was shot off of laptops, but I more behind the scenes. Were the actors given a person to be with them? Well, how was it shot? Was it Was it all shot at one time, like it looks on the Zoom? Like, how did you achieve that sort of like realism with the Zoom call? My next question is about the runtime. What went into that decision? Was that a product of the storytelling because of a Zoom call? You know, it's a free for a certain amount of time. Or was that a product of like restrictions with COVID and stuff like that? Was it an intentional 54 minutes, or were you kind of boxed into the 54 minutes and you made the best 54 minutes you could?
Cool.
Wow, he
All right,
even
so
had a
I just
little.
want
He
to hop
even
in
had a
real
little
fast. He's
video
not
edit in
working.
it. Yeah, what is that? He's in PJs. He even had a little
He's in
video
his
edit in there.
PJs.
Did you see it cut? I was like, wow. I mean, he had time
Nice little
today.
transition there, yeah.
No, but the reason I wanted to bring up his questions is because they were similar to mine. I thought it was so realistically a Zoom call. Like there was never once where I was like,
Yeah.
this looks like the the quality was just right. You know, like I could definitely tell what's going on, but it wasn't, you know, a cinema lens that was going in there. It was dark when it was supposed to be dark.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, just the
Mhm.
production was my big thing, and then you know, his second question about the runtime.
Yeah, so when we first came up with the idea for this, the first thing to do was for the producer to ask Zoom if we could use Zoom. And if we couldn't, if they said no, then we didn't have a film because we didn't want to make up like a crazy company like they do in Buffy, like just a random, like instead of Google, it's like Boogle or something. If it wasn't Zoom, it would be nothing. Because Zoom was what everyone started using in lockdown, and we wanted to represent this particular time. So we put all of our eggs in the Zoom basket, and we asked them, and they said yes. We told them we're going to kill a bunch of people on Zoom, and they were like, "Yep, like have all of our assets."
It happens in real life all the
So
time. Go
it's
ahead and
great.
do it. It's fine.
Yeah, and like maybe we would have just done it anyway if they said no, but then we would probably get in trouble. But yeah, they gave us a sign off on that, so that's a big few. And then what you see in Host, you don't see a single frame of Zoom in Host at all. Nothing
Very cool.
on. It's a Zoom film, but not a single thing was shot on Zoom. It was Zoom was used as a reference for all the girls to be on the same call at the same time, but each of them had a iPhone uh, taped to the back of their laptops, with the iPhone camera poking over the top of the laptop camera, so you'd get the same image approximately, but it wouldn't be like you wouldn't have to rely on the internet like being patchy, and you would get like a clean single as well. And then based on those singles, they were like and using Zoom as a reference, it was constructed together, and all the Zoom assets were put on, like the participants chat, share screen, record reactions. That was all put on in its right places, um, and then and that's a big job for someone to do that. So um, it was a lot of work. I mean, we could have just used Zoom, and it probably would have been fine, but um, it was better this way because then we could kind of like de-res it a little bit to make it a little bit more Zoom like. Um, yeah, so that's how it was done, and a lot of the the script, the scriptment was redacted from the girls. So we actually shot all of the kills first. So in order we did that so when uh, we could basically play it in live so we get their real reactions. So when you see them dying on screen and the other girls reacting, that's them seeing it for the first time. And you can see that best when Teddy's being burnt alive, and Emma's reaction, she didn't know that was going to happen. That's her real reaction, and that's why it's so authentic and good because it's real. Um, and just about the authenticity of the whole thing, like they've been friends for years and years and years. So all the conversations are real. We based the seance on a real seance we did with the girls as well. They're basically playing themselves. Like they'll probably say in interviews that they're not playing themselves. They're playing themselves 100%.
As someone who knows them,
100%.
they're playing
Yeah,
themselves.
they're playing themselves. Well, they probably don't see that side of them, but
Mhm.
like we do. And yeah, and the fact that they're using their real names, that was a big one for us. And of course,
Mhm.
like actors being actors, they asked the question, like, do we have to use our real names? This might be used against us. It might not represent us. I'm just like, the best found footage, the best example of a found footage film is the Blair Witch Project. They use the real names, like, and it works because you really believe Heather Donahue's in trouble, because she's using her real name, and you can just tell, like, when people are calling out her name, it's her real name. So we wanted to strip back the layers of like artifice from this as much as possible. So yeah, using their real names, using real friends. There's no soundtrack.
That's true.
It's
That's
just
true.
real,
Actually.
and it's one continuous zoom
Yeah.
basically. And yeah, we had to use the zoom assets as well. We didn't make something up. And yeah, we used as much real stuff as possible. Even the medium, Salem, used a real name. So yeah, we just, myself and Rob are like students of horror, and like I don't know if you've seen me on social media, but I'm just stupidly like obsessed with horror and the intricacies of it, and like all I do is watch horror all the time, and like frame by frame, so on my favorite like scare scenes, frame by frame, to like work out how it was done, and I go back to see, okay, how was that set up? Was this foreshadowed? Is that why it's so effective? And that's why you see in Host, even though it's short, every single thing, every single death is foreshadowed beforehand. Nothing is wasted, even though it's improv. It's
Right.
controlled improv. So we told them to get from A to B. You can say what you want in between it, but make sure you hit this beat and hit this beat, and then it'll kind of work.
Can you give us an example of one of those foreshadowings? Because
Yeah.
listen, I told Sky when I was watching, I have coping mechanisms over the years to watch horror because
Yeah.
like I've been dragged to theaters, and especially in college, and had to watch horror movies. I look in the corners. I look at the chat, like I look anywhere that I can so that I'm watching it, but I'm not. So can you give us an example of some of that
Yeah.
foreshadowing? And then the second question I had, you said they're all your friends, but are they all actors as well? Because they were phenomenal, I thought.
Yeah. So I'll do the first question. What's the first question was?
The first question was, what's an example of some of
Oh
those
yeah.
foreshadowings?
So for example, when Caroline first pops up, she has all of that kind of mask on her face, that kind of like face mask. And if you notice, it's exactly the same as how her face ends up later when she smashes her face against the keyboard. Like, it perfectly mirrors that. And also Caroline, like, we set up her video background as well, and that comes
Yeah.
as well.
That one, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, that's the main one. I don't want to like say too much,
Oh,
but
of
like
course.
you
Right.
can kind of like work it out with the other girls. And I mean, Emma with like playing around with the filter masks, and that comes back as well, and things like that.
Yeah.
But but also the second question
Yes.
from your friend as well.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, we're
it's
backing you up on questions here.
Yeah, no, it's all right. So yeah, 56 minutes. We were actually, when me and Rob were kind of first like coming up with it, we said, wouldn't it be funny if it was 40 minutes, like a free Zoom call? Because if you don't pay for like Pro,
Mm-hmm.
then it cuts off after 40 minutes. And we were like, oh, wouldn't it be cool if it was just 40 minutes? So the in film time is 40 minutes, but we actually seen 56 minutes. Yeah, and it was always going to be that short. We come from a background of shorts, and we always think a film is as long as it has to be. Like, why is there a prescribed amount of time? Like, who invented that 90 minutes? The people who invented that are like cinema chains who want to kind of have you in there as much as possible, so you eat as much food as possible, and it's like networks who can fill it up full of adverts.
Mm-hmm.
That's why it's that amount of time. But now with streaming, you can have it. It could be anything you want. There just needed to be someone or a group of people to say, "This is what's the norm now." Like, you can have anything. So one of the best things to me is people, as soon as it came out and people were loving it, one of the things they loved is the runtime,
Mm-hmm.
and just all of like the big kind of like film sites were like, yes, like this is it. Like, we don't have to rely on 90 minutes. And I don't think you're going to see a 90-minute film from me or Rob, like, ever, I think, because you don't need to. Like, it's nonsense. You might get a 7-minute film, like a 50-minute film, like, there's like no limits, just as long as you need to tell the story, basically.
Right.
And I know in like film schools, and they're very particular, and they just teach you what's come before. But I think you should invent your own kind of thing. And what was your question
My
again?
second question was, oh, they're all your friends, but
Yeah,
were
yeah.
they are they actors in general anyway? Because they were all, like I said, very, very good. I
Yeah,
believe
yeah,
them all. Again, maybe because they're playing themselves, but I
yeah.
mean, I was there.
They're all actors. Um, so yeah, just all my friends are like basically creatives, and
That's great.
um, Caroline, Radina, and Haley, they were all in this 2016 short that me and Rob did called Dawn of the Deaf, which went to Sundance. And that was the kind of first thing that kind of blew us up a little bit, like a few years back. And yeah, so they're from that. So we've known them for like 6, 7 years or something. And then Gemma and Emma are from this film that I directed called Multiplex, which isn't actually out yet, but I might even drop the trailer this week or next week.
Ooh,
It stars all of the girls from Host, and
Nice.
very cool.
it was shot before Host, so it's weird. Like now they're all like famous, but they're all in this film as well. Um, but
Look at
that's
that
just a
Sky
short.
getting exclusives, bro. We're getting exclusives.
Yeah,
I
it's
know.
a 20-minute short, but it
Yeah.
tells like the full story. It's more like a proof of concept for, I don't know, maybe a TV show or a film or something. But it's really cool. It's a lot different than Host. It's more like a children's adventure film. It's more like the Goonies or something, but set
Very
in
cool.
South London.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so yes, they're just friends, and I always want to work with like my friends. So because of COVID as well, like you can't really have like the auditioning process,
That's
and
true.
we already had like we already knew we wanted to use kind of our friends anyway. So
Yeah.
and we always knew that they were like awesome actors. They just never kind of had the big breakouts, but finally they've had a big breakout now. So like they're like everywhere, and like it's funny to see their like social media numbers go up, and just the amount of attention they're getting and opportunities they're getting off the back of hosts is it's really cool.
Well, 100% on Rotten Tomatoes is a pretty good breakout, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah. No,
yeah,
100%.
crazy, right? Like it's
Now, I was going to
unbelievable.
ask about that too. Like,
Yeah,
how has your life changed, since this whole thing blew up? I mean, I've been following you on Twitter since I watched Host. I just sent you a
yeah.
follow and I was like, oh my God. But, I see that you're posting, horror related content pretty much every day.
I was doing that before. But no one was paying attention to me before. Well, a little bit.
Now
A
you have
little
so
bit.
much engagement though, like I know I've
Yeah,
voted, every now and then.
yeah, I
So
did.
like how has it changed for you?
Because like I'm so I was so busy before, but like now I'm even more busy. I don't really have time to kind of think about it,
Yeah.
because we're making the next film, so we don't really have a chance. But it is kind of cool that like all of my like heroes are kind of like filmmakers, are all like behind it, and all
Yeah.
kind of like saying nice things about it, and like all these horror websites that I read every day, like are saying like Dread Central saying that it's the scariest film of the decade. It's as important as the Blair Witch, and just bloody disgusting, being like super awesome and nice about it. And New York Times and Time Magazine and Empire Magazine, and
Yeah.
just non-stop like, and like just weird things like Architectural Digest. Like I don't know if you've ever watched Architectural Digest on YouTube. They have the best YouTube channel because it's tours around like rich people's houses, but they're always like really weird. So I love seeing how weird like the mega rich and famous people are.
Yeah.
And yeah, they hit me up for an interview, and it's like, what? That's mental. um, and yeah, it's just like all these weird opportunities. Like obviously the 3 film Blumhouse deal was off the back of Host, so
Yeah.
that's kind of a big deal because I don't think they've ever given that to anyone before. So
I haven't
it's
heard
really
about it.
Just a
cool.
little bit of a big deal. I mean, you're
Yeah,
just so humble about it. I mean, Lord.
yeah, but I mean, it's always like, let's see what 3 films come out of it. Like, but 2 of the films, me and Rob already had like done and dusted. Basically, we already had the ideas and treatments for it. So we've already started the first one. We start shooting that soon, and then it'll be out hopefully by the end of the year. We're just going
Wow.
quick. End of the year or January, and then January we'll start filming the next one, and that'll like be out in like March or something. And that's the thing, like now we're the guys who can do things fast and relatively cheap. So
Well,
that's a good place to be.
I know that we're in COVID, but I feel like you need a vacation. Like you and your entire crew just need a vacation. You
I
guys are just
genuinely
nonstop.
really do need a holiday. Like, like I was doing, like when after Host came out, the first like 3 weeks, I was doing like podcasts and interviews from like 7 a.m. till like 3 a.m. the next day, like every single day for 3 weeks, just because there was a lot of American press to start with,
Yeah.
just constantly.
We're
And,
the
like,
worst. We're the worst. You know.
yeah, but like the others would just like leave it to me. They go, "Oh, Jed will do that one at 4 a.m. with someone in like
Oh my
Seattle."
gosh.
And it's just because like I'm so excited to talk about Host and horror in general. Like I'm just
Yeah.
like, yeah, I'll do it. And then I realized like I'm not sleeping or eating very much, and like I did, and for a little while I just felt a bit sick.
Yeah.
So, but now, yeah, totally fine. Totally fine. Back on it. But
He
no, yeah,
said he says as he's in the middle of an interview, "Oh no, this one, not this one. This one's
not this
great."
one. Like feels like this one. No, it's obviously it's kind of life changing, like for everyone really. But
Yeah.
we already had the Sam Raimi film in the bag before Host, and the Studio Canal one we announced, the Studio Canal prison horror movie. Both of those were in the bag, and they were announced because Host was doing so well, and they kind of wanted to jump on the back of that PR.
Now you mentioned a theatrical release for Host. Is that different than what we watched? Is that going to be actually in theaters? I assume,
Yeah,
based on the
yeah,
name.
yeah. It's going to be in theaters. So I think it was announced a couple of days ago. The UK theatrical release is being announced. The US one's hopefully to come. But yeah, on December the 4th, it will be in theaters like nationwide and available to buy digitally
Very
on
cool.
December the 4th. But we've been doing like pop-up screenings, like in London, at certain places to see how it works on the big screen. And in the lead up to Halloween, I'll be playing quite a lot, at least in London, because that's where we are, and we can get to then do Q&As. And then December 4th, it should be like everywhere, which is crazy because you never really get something that starts off as a tiny streaming thing, and then cinemas. Um, so yeah, it's bizarre. Like, and if it wasn't me, I'd be like, holy crap, those guys who made Hosts are like
Blowing
what's
up.
they be thinking? Like,
Yeah. Well,
And
I mean,
so
it's incredible because I mean, it is, the idea of making something that looks like a Zoom film. I think that people would be like, "Oh, we don't really want to see that." So I think you guys took a big risk with
yeah.
making this movie in the first place, and for it to receive the acclaim that it has,
Do you know
I
what?
think
Like,
it's just amazing.
yeah, because when it was announced, it was announced on deadline 3 weeks before it came out on Shudder, and we were nowhere near finished it. By the way, 3 weeks
Yeah.
before we finished it, 2 days before it came out on Shudder.
Wow.
Literally 2 days before, it was like panic stations, and like they even got me to help, like with some of the sound,
Yeah.
like and like I mean I edit and produce podcasts sometimes as well, so I was like helping like fix some sound issues. I was like, oh my god, it's out in 2 days, and like they're asking me, they must be so desperate. um, but like it was like all hands on deck, and like credit to our producer like Douglas Cox, who's literally the best producer in the UK, like hands down, for getting this made in lockdown, like absolute legend. And obviously like Rob Savage, the director, like me and him like work on everything together. But yeah, but when it was announced like 3 weeks before, like on deadline, and it went across all the horror sites as well. This is Zoom thing coming out, like, and the comments underneath were just like, "This is going to be the shittest film of all time. I'm not going to watch this." And it was literally stuff like, "Rob Savage, you've ruined your career." Luckily, they didn't mention me, but it was just stuff like that, like, "It'll be the worst movie." And I was just like, "Cool." And they kept on like saying, "Oh, this is just going to be Unfriended, like Unfriended 3 or something."
Mm-hmm.
And I
Right.
was, Yeah, but secretly I was like, yeah, bring it on, because the expectations are so low. They were like literally the bottom of a well.
Right.
So it's almost easier to impress people if
Mm-hmm.
they go without expectations. And I knew like once a few people watched it, it would kind of word of mouth would kind of get it around. But we didn't realize like literally on day one, it just like blew up like,
Yeah.
and that was mostly from Dread Central saying it's the scariest movie of the decade, like on day one or maybe even the night before.
Well, and one question, getting back to this will be my last production one, but
Mhm.
doing the VFX and the stunts and everything during COVID has to be a challenge. I mean, we have people catching on fire, we have people falling down from, from heights and things of that nature. I don't want to give everything away, but you mentioned you have a girl slamming her face into a computer. So how is that handled during these times where in many cases you're not able to have at least several people in a room at a time?
Well, our friend Nathaniel, who's in the Quarantine Movie Club, he is the stunt supervisor, and he runs this stunt company called Lucky 13, and they basically had a house in lockdown that was full of stunt people. So it was so lucky we had all the people we needed in one house who were already in a bubble of quarantine together. So you'll see a lot of hidden cuts in Host that cuts to like some to the girls or to the stunt girls in the stunt house, or you will see or they actually went there like when Ginny gets hoisted up and her neck breaks and smashed into the pool and stuff like that. They just had to build the rig, and they had to go there and to Teddy's and build that rig in, but stay at a distance and stuff. And it's really hard to keep
Wow.
health and safety like well, health and safety is paramount, of course, and so it's really, really, really extra hard to do that under like lockdown conditions. But they managed to do it, and yeah, and like Teddy himself is an actor, but was also a stuntman.
Mm, that helps.
So yeah, and he was certified to set himself on fire, and that was one of the like going into this. Like we had a list of things that we wanted to do, and specifically I had a list of things that I wanted to do, which was levitation and fire, and you'll see that in like from now on in everything we do, levitation and fire. That's my two things.
It worked this time, it'll work the next.
It'll work every time. So I was just like, we need to have a full body burn like somehow.
Yeah.
So luckily Teddy could do that. And he really, it was not CGI. His face is literally on fire, and that's Emma's real reaction to her friend being set on fire.
That's so awesome.
Yeah, and like the VFX supervisor is also a good friend. He is with us from our very first short film. Steve Bray, he's worked on loads of like big projects, but he just does everything for us, and he will do going forward. And it's great because we started off on like literally we made our very first short with 200 quid of our own money, and that's called Absence. And it looks like it cost like 200 grand. We just did well just because we had a good team around us, and we've taken that team through every single like film. So, and now we're doing big films. We're just still using them, which is really cool. And that's how it should be. You should always rise up with your mates, and yeah, because I think that's the coolest way to do it.
That's right, Sky. Take his advice. Take his advice.
Oh, what's your little baby's name?
This is Sophie.
Hey, Sophie.
Is that super American as well, or?
No, Sophie's very British, actually.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah.
There you go.
It's just me and
Hey,
her right now.
Sophie.
Yes. Sorry, I had to get up. Her
It's okay,
mother is
Sophie.
trying to find a boarder for our dog for the weekend. So,
Oh, wow.
yes.
Sophie, a
So,
big Host fan.
she just got done watching The Little Mermaid. So pretty much, yeah. Same thing.
Yeah, same difference. Yeah.
Listen, I'm telling you, I'll see if we can't get the family to the theaters in like January when it comes out.
Nice. Yeah.
All right,
Whenever it's out
we'll see
in,
what we can
in
do.
America. Yeah, definitely. But hopefully,
Um,
hopefully at some point there'll be a physical edition as well. So
That's right.
Yeah.
That's
yeah,
right.
I was gonna wonder about that. I saw some words on Twitter about that, so I'm hoping that we get that official.
I can't say anything, but like,
Yeah.
it's coming, Doug. I can't.
And
say
I do want, and I don't know if you can send Sky the link or us the link. I definitely want to see that 2-minute thing that started it all.
Yeah, it's on.
because I
It's on
think that's
YouTube.
it's on
Twitter,
YouTube.
on YouTube. It's on Twitter. It's everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and like all the behind the scenes stuff will be on like feature DVD and Blu-ray and stuff because we filmed absolutely everything. Not knowing that people would want to see it, but we knew that we wanted to see it, and
Yeah.
it's so lucky we did film everything because people really, really want to see it. It's just
Okay.
loads of luck in this film. Like, it's crazy how everything kind of it's like the perfect storm.
I think you had a great, a great formula though. I mean, like you had a 54-minute film, 54, 57-minute film, and people's attention spans, especially right now, are
Yeah,
so
yeah,
low,
yeah,
So you get a great horror film, you get it for that short amount of time, you're gonna have an audience, and then like
yeah.
you said, it's like word of mouth. Oh, this film is really great, So I think
Yeah.
you really had a lot of, and the immersion, I really felt like I was there. I know Jansen alluded to that earlier.
Yeah.
The way that it was filmed, the way that it was structured, the audience feels like they were there. So.
Well, and I also thought he did a great job of, yes, it's a horror film, and we have several people that meet their maker, it seems. And so, but going into it, we're 10 minutes in and it hasn't happened yet. So I
Mhm.
thought it did a great time. I thought it did a great job of also like having an actual narrative in there as well,
Yeah,
even though it is just, 54 minutes or an hour. I thought it did a good job of putting, it packed in the scares, but it tells you this is kind of why they're happening, and it
Yeah.
takes you
Yeah.
through that.
We
Yeah.
really actually break the screenwriting rules with Host a lot. Like, it's really top heavy. There's a lot of getting to know the girls, more than there usually is in a horror movie. But we were so adamant, like we really need, because we knew we had like a roller coaster of deaths at the end. We really needed you to like them as much as possible. So we had a lot of getting to know you and interactivity. And yeah, it's not the classic 3 act structure really, or like the hero's journey or any of that save the cat stuff. It's yeah, it's its own thing, and maybe we've kind of like stumbled across like something that works like well as well. And we are using a similar kind of format on the next one as well. But it's nothing like Host, to be quite honest, even though you might have seen us in the interviews say it's Host-esque. It's not really. It's
Well,
still,
it's going to have levitation and fire, though, right?
have to. All good films do. All good films do.
That's all you need to know. And
Yeah.
But no, I
so,
mean, you really did go away from this, structure that I know that a lot of film schools teach. As someone who's in film school, I am taught that. I've read The Hero's Journey, I've read Save the Cat, and all these other
Yeah.
screenplay books. You really did, and the fact that it worked so well, like you said, you really are going forward and
Yeah.
less of dealing with stuff in the past.
Yeah.
And it worked so well, which was great to see.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, like we've been asked to like talk to like film classes quite a lot.
Yeah.
Some big ones as well, and it's almost undoing like a lot of the work like the teachers have kind of like told them, because like it's like we just breaking all the rules. Like, you're not meant to do a lot of the stuff that we kind of did.
Yeah.
So yeah.
and do you
But
think, we've asked several of our guests, in this time period, kind of similar questions, but do you think that, COVID and quarantine and proving that it can be done like in different ways, is that going to change? I mean, really just from top to bottom, from releases to how things are made, to story structures, to even just content ideas. Do you think that, while COVID obviously has had a heavy impact negatively in this first little bit, layoffs, things like that, do you think that it'll have a much wider impact going forward, top to bottom, on the film industry?
100%, because now kind of like studios have to almost like future proof projects, so I think there'll be a lot more intimate like films that are set in small locations, where if something kicks off they can still do it. Yeah, and I think hopefully Host is one of the films that kind of shown people that you can have a shorter film and for it still to get like a lot of attention and a lot of success. Because before, like we would be told that like shorter films are like not it, and like there's certain rules about like how long your film has to be on a DVD even, like, and to be in like supermarkets and on shelves, and like we're
I
kind of
did not
breaking
know
those
that.
rules.
That's interesting.
Yeah, nor did I until we did this. So
Streaming
yeah,
kind of opened that up for you, though.
yeah. Well, I've had a lot of people say, like screenwriters say, like they had an idea for a film that's like 60 minutes long, 70 minutes long, and they've been rejected in the past, like because
Yeah.
of how long it is. But now they can just go, well, look at Host. It's like it's had this crazy success, um and yeah, like now there's no more excuses. I know people will probably still say, "I was just a one-off," but we'll show you on the next one. It's not one-off. We'll keep doing it.
I mean, to
Yeah.
the runtime point, I watched a documentary on Netflix about speed Rubik's Cube players, and it was the best
Oh,
documentary I've seen in like years. And it
oh
was
no,
40 minutes. It's 40
that's all
minutes
we
top to
need.
bottom, and it was great.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's all you need. Like,
I know.
who set these arbitrary rules? Like, and I think it is just like these big companies just want to stick adverts in it. Like, as an audience, we should just watch whatever we want to watch, no matter how long it is.
Yeah. So I think, before we wrap up, because I know that, it's like what, almost 11 o'clock where you are right now,
That's
right?
fine. I'm just getting started at this time.
Oh, that's awesome. I do want to know, I know that you mentioned Sam Raimi, he was a big influence, he was kind of like the gatekeeper for you with Evil Dead
Yeah.
2. When you met him, how was that for you?
I've only ever met him on Zoom, of course. Like,
But still, like, that's incredible.
yeah. It is quite hard to kind of comprehend because like he's like my filmmaking hero, he's my favorite director.
Yeah,
Like I've watched the Evil Dead movies, and Army of Darkness, like so many times.
right.
So it's just weird, and it's like just a pleasure because like the guy is just a master, and just to have him kind of chip in and give his comments on like story ideas and how to improve certain things, and just stuff like when I would think we've got something really like set in stone of like put the perfect like cool horror set piece, he'll just say something like and then you just think, of course that's the way you should do it. And like he's just like a absolute master, and like it's just like a learning experience every time I speak to him. And it's funny, we've been doing like a table reads with him, and where we've got the script and we're all like me, Rob, a couple of the producers, and Sam are playing the parts. So for the last like month, Sam Raimi's been playing my girlfriend. Like I'm playing this one part and he's playing my girlfriend. So like it's weird that like we're just back and forth as like a bickering boyfriend and girlfriend, like me and Sam Raimi.
That's
Very
so
strange a way to kind of like meet you.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think we're kind of wrapping it up here. So we'd love to just take us through what's next for you guys. We know you got the Blumhouse deal. We know that you just said you have another one on the horizon. But get in your plugs, of course. We want to hear about it all, of course.
Yeah. So the three Blumhouse movies are next. Then hopefully the Sam Raimi one will go next after that. We have one with Studio Canal, which is a women in prison. The people have called it the Conjuring behind bars type movie because it's a supernatural prison escape movie, which no one's ever really done. But
I've never heard of a premise like that. Yes,
I pitched it last year to my class, a similar concept. So that's just, I think it's the idea. Yeah,
that's
great.
Like, but the thing is, like, I've got so many of these high concept ideas, and like, like it's great when it gets, because everyone's like, of course that should be a movie, because of course that should be a movie. Just like with Host, of course there should be like a Zoom like horror film.
Yeah.
So that one is coming out at some point too. Can't wait for that. And then we've got me and Rob have got some more films to be announced, which I don't know when they're going to be announced because we've announced quite a lot recently. So there's that. Multiplex is going to come out, the film that I directed. There's possibly a TV project on the horizon. There's lots of stuff, and we're having meetings all the time basically, so there's tons of stuff happening, and because of Host's success,
that's so exciting.
Doors have opened. Yeah.
And where can people find Host, of course?
People can find Host on shudder.com, or the Amazon app of Shudder. Go on Amazon, and if it's not in your area, don't just wait, and hopefully it will be very very soon, because it should be in a lot more regions come hopefully like the end of the year, and cinemas in December, and transactional VOD. Yeah, it'll be cool.
That's incredible, man. This was so awesome. Thank you so much for joining us
Absolutely.
on
Thank you.
this.
Thank you. We
Yeah,
really
cheers,
appreciate
guys.
it. It's
No,
been
thanks.
it's been a ton of fun.
Yeah.
Thanks.
And we really
Yeah.
enjoyed the movie. We'll get this out there, and I just think we want to say thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you, Sky and Jansen and Sophie, for having me on your podcast.
Sophie says you're very welcome. She's happy to be here too. It's her first appearance too, so she's
nice.
excited. There you go.
Cool. Yeah, well, thanks, guys.
Thank
Appreciate it.
you.
Have me on again sometime.
For
Yes, sir.
sure, with the next
Absolutely.
movie coming out in December, right?
Yeah, well, December,
Yeah.
January, who knows? Yeah, something like that.
All right,
Thank you
Jed.
so
Thank
much.
you so much, man.
Cool, thanks. See ya.
Bye.
Bye.